This video was made using insights from vidIQ. Stick around after the video to find out how we used vidIQ as our secret YouTube weapon while making it. You've been recruited for one of the most elite assignments in the Air Force. Today, you fly your first mission in a B-2 stealth bomber. Years of training have led you to this moment. It'll culminate with you getting shoved in a cramped cockpit, handed drugs to keep you awake, and a flight plan that'll last for the next 24 hours. As you strap yourself in, you wonder if this $2 billion aircraft, equipped with some of the most powerful weapons ever conceived, is actually worth it. After seeing the cramped cockpit you'll spend the next full day in, you're starting to have second thoughts. Thinking back to your time in flight school, you remember learning the history of this beautiful beast. Originally designed during the Cold War to remain hidden from Soviet radar, the B-2 was the United States Air Force's crowning achievement. It has a wingspan of 172 feet, a cruising speed of 560 miles per hour, and a range just shy of 7,000 miles. Not to mention, it can be equipped with anything from smart bombs that can hit a precise target to nuclear bombs that can decimate an entire enemy military complex. The B-2 never got to show off its capabilities during the Cold War because by the time the first aircraft rolled off the assembly line, the Berlin Wall had fallen and the Soviet Union was falling apart. However, this magnificent aircraft still stands the test of time. Whenever you stand on the tarmac of Whiteman Air Force Base, you can't help but gaze at all the other planes in the hangar. There are 20 B-2 Spirits in all. Each one has the distinctive flying wing shape and is painted black. The B-2s in the hangar cost $2 billion to make. You chuckle at how much cheddar was spent on these aircraft. The planes not only cost billions of dollars to construct, but they also need to be maintained and equipped with weapons. In reality, the B-2s are worth much more than their original $2 billion price tag. But considering what they can do, these planes are worth it. But you didn't just get this position because of your good looks. You worked hard and went through years of training to get to where you are today. You were recruited from Air Force Special Operations Command. If you're honest with yourself, you always wanted to be an astronaut. And by advancing through the ranks of the Air Force, you thought you'd find NASA recruiters begging you to pilot their rockets. But the U.S. military had different plans in store for you. One day, a high-ranking officer from Air Force Global Strike Command tracked you down. You were in the middle of a battle simulation and you were going to pass with flying colors when the simulation suddenly shut down. You sat in the dark chamber, waiting for orders to come over the speakers. The door opened and a ray of light shone in. "Step out of the simulator," a deep voice said from the light. You unstrapped your safety belt. There was no reason to stop the simulator unless there was some big news, you thought to yourself. Perhaps you were about to receive new orders to begin the astronaut training program. But when you stepped out of the simulator, it wasn't a NASA director who was standing in front of you, but a high-ranking Air Force general covered in medals of honor. He looked at you with penetrating eyes. Seemed as if he was sizing you up, which you later found out was literally the case. In order to be a B-2 pilot, you need to be 5'8" or under. Otherwise, you won't fit in the cockpit. The general handed you your transfer papers to Whiteman Air Force Base, where your skills would be put to the ultimate test. For months, you were given giant manuals to read about the B-2 aircraft. You passed exam after exam to verify you knew every mechanism and switch within the B-2's cockpit. You were put into a simulator that mimicked the B-2 in every way and drilled by your training officer on scenarios you could encounter in the field. You spent hours in the simulator just like you would spend hours in the B-2 when flying long-range missions. After you passed all the tests and simulations with flying colors, you finally got behind the actual flight stick. The cockpit looked exactly like it had in the simulations. However, when you engaged the engines, you were forced back in your seat as the B-2 accelerated to hundreds of miles per hour. You'll never forget the feeling of taking off for the first time. It was like being strapped to a smooth, high-powered rocket. When you first landed after your first flight, you felt like you now knew what true freedom was like. The B-2 followed your every move, as if it could predict what you wanted from it. Each time you pulled the aircraft into the hangar, you couldn't wait to go back up again. For the next several months, you were constantly ready for unannounced drills. The officers at Whiteman like to make sure that the B-2 stealth bomber teams and the aircraft themselves are always combat ready. You and your crewmate conducted long-distance flight missions as training exercises. These took you across the globe, where you learned to balance the different tasks so that everything went smoothly when you were stuck in the B-2 for over 24 hours. When you were first recruited, the world was at peace, but over time things have changed. A power-hungry dictator on the other side of the planet has decided to invade a nearby country. His ruthless attacks and the murder of countless innocent civilians have forced the U.S. government to take action. You received the call early this morning. Your orders were to report to Whiteman Air Force Base on the double. You grab your emergency mission pack and drive to the base. The guards see your car approaching and wave you through. There's no time to waste. Your mission will be a long one, and you need to get your $2 billion stealth bomber off the ground as soon as possible. You park your car and leap out. As you approach the hangar, you're met by a high-ranking official. You salute him and take the manila folder with your flight orders from his outstretched hand. He explains the urgency of your mission as you read the report. There are a series of satellite photographs picturing nuclear missiles being deployed to the front lines of the war zone. You're tasked with flying your bomber undetected to the launch sites and destroying the nukes before they can be launched. Since the United States technically is not at war, you and your co-pilot must make sure the enemy never detects your aircraft. The smart bombs you'll drop will obliterate the nukes while simultaneously making sure no evidence of your involvement is left behind. You close the folder and hand it back to the general. "I understand, sir," you say, confirming that this mission is off the books. You head through another door to the main hangar where your B-2 stealth bomber waits. Already standing next to the black aircraft are your co-pilot and a doctor. You shake the co-pilot's hand and give the doc a nod. She hands you a small cup with pills. "To help with the long flight," she says. "The medicine is designed to allow you to stay alert during crucial parts of the mission. Since you were assigned to be a B-2 pilot, you have modified your eating and sleeping schedule by staggering your food intake throughout the day instead of having 3 large meals. Your body has developed a routine that allows you to maintain appropriate sugar levels at any point of the day. This helps when flying for long periods of time. Your modified sleeping schedule allows you to function with only a few hours of rest each night and power naps throughout the day. These routines have altered your circadian rhythm, allowing you to switch to your sleep schedule at a moment's notice." You hand the empty cup back to the doc and proceed to the steps leading up to the cockpit. You reach the top, look inside, and slide into your seat. Your co-pilot enters from the other side, and you begin your pre-flight check. While you run through the system checks, your aircraft is equipped with state-of-the-art smart bombs that will allow for precision targeting. Everything checks out, and you're ready for takeoff. The engineers helping you prep the B-2 for flight climb down and pull the metal steps away from the plane. There's a hiss as the cockpit closes, sealing you and your co-pilot in the stealth bomber. You listen to the final orders given by Flight Command as the heads-up display appears on the screen directly in front of you. There are windows in the B-2, but they're overlaid with screens that project real-time images via a sophisticated camera system set up around the plane. Data comes in from different sensors and generates 3-dimensional images that help you navigate the plane. Your co-pilot does a final readout and confirms that the aircraft is ready for takeoff. You begin pulling the B-2 out of the hangar, being sure to use only the slightest amount of thrust. As you taxi to the runway, a commander comes over the comms and goes over the final flight plan one more time. The trip will take around 30 hours, with a mid-air refueling maneuver just before you reach enemy airspace. You confirm the orders and stop the B-2 at the end of the runway. It's silent in the cockpit. The glow from the screen surrounding your viewport illuminates your co-pilot's face. He looks over at you and smiles. "Let's do this," he says as he extends his hand across the center console. You fist bump, flick the brake release switch, and push the thruster control forward. The jet engines roar to life. The B-2 picks up speed quickly. You're forced back into your seat, but the aircraft doesn't jerk. The takeoff is powerful but smooth. The B-2 lifts into the air and soars to cruising altitude of 50,000 feet. You ease back on the flight stick, and the plane levels out. You and your co-pilot begin prepping the aircraft for the long flight. After verifying that the flight path is laid in correctly, you engage the autopilot. You run through a series of checklists and the plethora of data being sent directly to your HUD, such as weather conditions and the latest intelligence on enemy movements. You still have 15 hours ahead of you before you drop your bombs, but the mission requires you and your co-pilot to constantly stay up to date on atmospheric conditions and the location of the enemy threat. After hours of prepping, it's time for a rest. You have a snack, and your co-pilot takes the first flight shift. You unbuckle your harness and slip into the compartment right behind your seat. It's here that the circular stainless steel bowl is situated. It's not your first choice for a toilet, but when you're flying at 50,000 feet above the ground in a $2 billion stealth bomber, you take what you can get. After relieving yourself, you move to the small cot set up just behind the flight seats. It's just long enough for you to lie down on. Before you get some rest, you chug a bottle of water to make sure you stay hydrated and help with the waking up process. Nothing makes it easier to get up than a full bladder. You close your eyes and quickly fall asleep. 3 hours later, the alarm goes off. You're instantly awake and proceed back to your seat. You get updates from your co-pilot. New weather patterns have been entering the target region. You update the onboard computer with the data and it identifies new drop coordinates. After doing a quick rundown with your co-pilot, he slides behind the seats and takes his nap. The flight continues to go smoothly as you monitor all the telemetry coming in. When your co-pilot awakes, it's time for one of the more difficult parts of the flight. The B-2 needs to refuel, but there's no time to land. Therefore, it must be done in the air. The image on your heads-up display changes. The sensors have recalibrated and are tracking the refueling plane. You grab the flight stick and maneuver the B-2 so it's lined up with the refueling pipe. The cameras and sensing equipment allow you to approach the refueling aircraft at just the right angle while you reduce the thrust to match its speed. You gently ease the B-2 forward and connect to the refueling pipe. It automatically seals, and the tanks of the B-2 are replenished. This whole process takes only minutes. The entire time, you're in communication with the pilots of the refueling plane. They check in with you one last time before you push the uncoupling button and the fuel pipe is released. You gently lower the B-2 away from the refueling aircraft and bank hard. You now have enough fuel to reach your target and return home. Before you climb to a higher altitude, you thank the pilots aboard the refueling craft. This will be your last contact with anyone until your mission is complete. In order to remain entirely undetected by the enemy, your B-2 must go dark. The design of the bomber ensures that it won't be picked up by radar, as the shape and angle of the fuselage cause radar signals to pass over the B-2 without being reflected back at the source. Your high altitude also ensures the B-2 won't be seen by any enemy aircraft flying in the area as well. However, if you were to break radio silence, your signal could be picked up by the enemy. That's why it's vital to remain in communications blackout until you complete your missions and leave hostile territory. To ensure you and your co-pilot are alert, you each drink Gatorade, eat a protein bar, and take another pill prescribed by the doctor at the base. It's now time to engage the enemy. The latest data is instantaneously sent to your plane's computer via a secure satellite uplink. Apparently, U.S. intelligence received new information that the nukes were no longer on the move, but were set up for deployment. It's imperative that you reach the targets as quickly as possible. You push the engines a little harder, making sure to calculate exactly how much fuel you can burn while still having enough to return to friendly airspace safely. New readings for airspeed, temperature, and precipitation are fed into the onboard computer. All of these factors will affect the timing and trajectory at which the bombs need to be deployed. You push a series of buttons and flick a switch. The screens across the glass cockpit flicker and then change to show a live image of the ground using synthetic aperture radar. This generates a picture of the ground thousands of feet below the aircraft. You scan the landscape looking for your targets. Your co-pilot spots the first set of enemy missiles. He records their position and you begin searching for the other locations. There are some anomalous readings, but according to the intel you received earlier, you seem to have successfully located all of the enemy nukes. But something is not right. You and your co-pilot use the B-2's advanced imaging systems to get a better look at what's happening on the ground. You realize that the enemy has not just set up the nukes, they're preparing to fire them. If they're allowed to succeed, it could lead to World War III and the destruction of the planet. You need to get into position now. You jam the thruster forward, the engines are pushed to the max. You adjust your course using the SAR radar and the GPS being sent via satellite. Your co-pilot confirms that you're right above the target. Every bit of data is checked one last time to ensure success. Then, you drop the payload. The doors beneath the B-2 bomber open. The speed and altitude the plane is flying at cause a rapid change in pressure. The aircraft shakes slightly. The bombs are released and fall toward their targets. You close the bomb bay doors and adjust course. You can't leave the area until you get confirmation the targets have been destroyed. You and your co-pilot remain glued to the heads-up display. You check your sensors for any indication that your bomber has been spotted. Time seems to slow. All you can do is wait until the bombs reach the ground. You've been in the B-2 for almost 20 hours. It's been a full day since you woke up and received the orders. You know that your $2 billion aircraft is the best at what it does. The bombs are state-of-the-art, and as long as nothing malfunctions, the enemy weapon should be destroyed in a matter of seconds. Then, the moment you've been waiting for happens. Data begins coming in that the bombs have detonated. You and your co-pilot use the synthetic aperture radar and satellite imagery to confirm all targets have been destroyed. You're relieved to find the mission was a success. The enemy nuclear deployments have been obliterated by the bombs you dropped from the B-2. Where there was once a threat, now they're just smoldering holes and mangled enemy vehicles. You smile at your co-pilot, who gives a nod of approval. You pull the flight stick to the side and turn the B-2 back to home. You have enough fuel to make it back across the ocean and land safely at Whiteman once again. As the hours tick by, you eventually reach friendly airspace. U.S. Command already knows your mission was a success, as they received intel from the operatives in the region and received satellite confirmation that all nukes were destroyed. When you're able to break radio silence, you inform them that all sensors aboard the B-2 indicated that the mission was a success. Command acknowledges your report and gives you the all-clear to proceed back to Whiteman. You and your co-pilot take turns flying the B-2 across the ocean, past the coast, and into the middle of the country. When you aren't flying, you take another nap and get some well-deserved rest. As you approach the Air Force Base, you're cleared by the flight tower for landing. Your heads-up display shows the runway straight ahead. You lower the landing gear, reduce thrust, and slowly drop the plane until it comes in for a smooth landing. All in all, you've been in the B-2 for longer than a day. You changed time zones several times, flew across an ocean, and carried out your mission successfully. Tomorrow, you'll receive new orders, but right now, you and your co-pilot are just happy to have your feet back on the ground. Then again, this was all just another day in the life of a B-2 stealth bomber pilot. Ever wondered how we decide what to make videos about? We're gonna let you in on a little secret. It's vidIQ. It lets us see exactly how many searches per month a certain keyword gets. More searches means more potential viewers, but of course there's more to it than that. vidIQ also shows you the competition for that keyword. The less competition there is, the more likely that your video will stand out, which means more views for your video. I know it sounds too easy, but it really is. You don't need to have a genius IQ, you need to have vidIQ. But try it for yourself. Get a 30-day trial for only $1 by going to vidiq.com/theinfoshow. Now watch how US military spy plane drove the USSR crazy, or check out why the A-10 Warthog is totally invincible.